From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up today on AgDay, our I-80 planting tour begins, but some farmers are facing big obstacles.
We're not going to be able to afford any setbacks, so we've used up all our window for that.
Purdue at Purdue, talking about the future of the industry.
There's a lot of anxiety. There's a legitimate anxiety, is what I tell the president.
As a new measure on farmer sentiment is released.
And the bulk of the decline was really attributable to a decline in the Future Expectation Index.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Betsy Gibbon, in for Clinton. A new Purdue University CME Group Ag Barometer showing a bit of a drop. The March reading is 133. That's down from 136 a month ago. Researchers say increasing concerns about future economic conditions drove the barometer lower. The index of future expectations declined to 139. It was 145 in February. And even though there was a decline in the future expectations index, it is still 15 points stronger than last year. But those asked say they are less optimistic about their farm's financial future now than a year ago.
We asked farmers about their expectations with respect to their farm's financial condition in 2019 versus 2018. And 60% of them said they thought their financial condition would be about the same this year as it was a year earlier. But 20%, 1 in 5, said they actually thought their farm's financial performance was going to decline in 2019 versus 2018.
Financial stress is also an issue. Survey results from January and this month suggest that up to 7% of farms are suffering from some financial stress. Speaking of Purdue, Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue paying a visit to the university. Taking time to answer questions during his stop on campus, Purdue touches on immigration policy and farm labor and says there will be a proposal released to tackle the issue soon.
The administration, I think, is very close to coming out with a comprehensive immigration proposal dealing with border security, asylum, refugee status, as well as a legal workforce, both on the merit standpoint and the low skill standpoint. And we've got an assigned detail person working with the White House right now to make sure agriculture is represented in that.
Purdue also touching on the trade agreement with Mexico, Canada, and the United States, saying he believes that USMCA agreement will be ratified, but admitting China is an open question. The disaster aid stalemate continues in the Senate. That's after it voted down 2 bills. Republicans and Democrats are clashing over President Trump's opposition to more help for Puerto Rico. Iowa Republican Senator Chuck Grassley commenting on Twitter, quote, "I hope I wins. Iowa media will ask my Democratic colleagues on their next trip to Iowa why they voted against disaster relief funding bill that was before the Senate tonight, impeding money getting to disaster areas like devastating floods of southwest Iowa. Don't they care about Iowans in distress?" The $13.5 billion Senate package included $3 billion in farm disaster aid, along with $150 million to rebuild rural facilities. Senate Democrats reportedly will introduce new legislation to provide billions of dollars in new disaster funds for Farm Belt states affected by the recent Midwest flooding. New data estimates at least 1 million acres of U.S. farmland were flooded in the heartland last month. Reuters looked at satellite data and analyzed by Grow Intelligence. It's estimated the flooded acreage represents less than 1% of U.S. land used to grow grains. Grow Intelligence says Iowa had the most water, covering more than 474,000 acres. That was followed by Missouri with more than 203,000 acres. It said satellite imagery didn't show the full extent of flooding in Nebraska, but billions of dollars of old crops and storage were also destroyed. And Reuters is also reporting that USDA has no system in place to compensate producers for those crops. And then there's the emotional and mental impacts of all of this. One mental health expert saying while the floods are over, for the moment, the worst feeling may be yet to come.
And that phase is where that optimism starts slowly waning as trying to recover from this just keeps going on, and maybe we're not sleeping as well and we're getting tired and exhausted and not seeing the progress that we had hoped. That's when the full effects are seen of what people are going through. People can start getting into that irritable or angry stage, feeling sad and depressed. And the huge thing is feeling very powerless.
But Dr. Chasik has some good news. She says most victims of catastrophic natural disasters do get through all of the stages and make it to what she calls the reconstruction stage and into recovery.
The I-80 Planting Tour, brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential.
The flooding hitting just before planting season, leaving many to wonder when or if they will even get a chance to put seed in the ground. We kick off this year's I-80 Planting Tour in Nebraska. They're cleaning up the mess in Nebraska as farmers hope April treats them better than March.
We're not going to be able to afford any setbacks, so we've used up all our windows for that.
This year is a little different. Farmers along the Platte, Elkhorn, and Missouri rivers, to name a few, all flooded last month. And that may not be the end. While the Missouri River has flooded, many farmers worry that this will just get worse with all the snow and the water up north moving its way downstream.
Last fall we were fairly wet harvest around here and we didn't get field work done, so we were counting on hopefully a drier pattern this spring to get our fields prepared, for planting.
Should we expect this wet weather pattern to continue in Nebraska?
I'm kind of leaning that way. My 90-day is showing above normal precipitation for all of the Central Plains at this point, as we do have systems coming from west to east.
Farmers near the Elkhorn River are at the mercy of Mother Nature, but are still not ruling out planting corn.
If we have good weather the next 30-60 days, I think we'll be able to get corn in here. We're going to do our best to get everything planted to get something in the ground this year.
While lower ground is uncertain, farmers hopeful they're still going to be able to plant, especially on higher ground.
The hills around here will be able to move some soil enough to get them planted this spring and hopefully get a close to normal crop.
The same goes for farmers who have drier acres near the Platte River.
85–90% of our ground's in the hills, which is fine, but it'll be the normal rotation. This top field, I'll bet you we'll be planting April 25th.
Okay, I'll be calling you April 25th.
If the sun comes out and the wind starts blowing, you're going to be saying, I wish it would rain.
It's all determination to get a seed in the ground.
We have times, but we're going to need perfect weather to get this done.
In USDA's Prospective Plantings report, the department says there will be significantly more corn acres planted this year. Of course, the question is if the weather will cooperate for these farmers in Nebraska, or if they will be forced to plant soybeans. Spring has sprung, but Mother Nature apparently isn't done entirely with winter. The newest member of the AgDay weather team, Kimberly Newman, has more in today's crop comments.
Yeah, unfortunately, Betsy, some portions of North America haven't seen the end of the winter driving season just yet. Chad from Glenborough, Manitoba, Canada, shared this picture with us with the quote, lovely spring morning in Manitoba, and you can see a light snow covering those roads. That area expecting warmer temperatures and more spring-like conditions by the weekend. Now, as we move forward here with your wind speed forecast, you can see, especially in the Great Lakes to start the morning off, we've got some stronger wind speeds, and that will actually pick up in intensity and slightly shift off to the east throughout the day, definitely impacting parts of New York and moving up into Canada. Meanwhile, the desert Southwest sees stronger winds, 25 miles an hour plus this evening, dying down overnight tonight as they typically do, but heading into your Thursday, we'll see incredibly strong winds off the northeastern coast, where that storm has just fired off and is finishing for parts of Nova Scotia, where incredibly strong winds will linger. Across the rest of the country, light winds as we finish out your Thursday. I'll have more on your forecast coming up. Now here are some hometown temps.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
USDA is calling for corn to be king this planting season, but how close are the numbers to reality? We'll have some insight coming up. And later, Burger King's new take on its most iconic burger.
Join Andrew McCrae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
Confirmation that China did buy 1.6 million metric tons of soybeans over the past few days not only confirmed recent buy rumors, but also had the market in a more positive mood on Tuesday. Here's more from the CME.
Let's take a look back at what we've done the last couple days for corn. We had the report on Friday, very shockingly bearish report, as we found an extra 270 million bushels from the USDA's quarterly grain stocks. We were down sharply accordingly on Friday. And then on Monday, we had a halfway decent bounce off the lows. We didn't take back all of the losses by any means, but we did have a nice little bounce off the lows. And then here on Tuesday, while we started under a little bit of pressure, we're gravitating back towards unchanged. We're kind of mixed as far as depending on where you look. But really hanging out near unchanged. So we're holding the bounce yesterday. I like seeing that. I think that opens up the door for more of an attempt at a bounce to the upside here in the next coming days. As far as soybeans are concerned, we really didn't have that shockingly bearish report, and they've hung in really very well. Soybeans act like they want to go higher from here. This is Ted Seifert of Zaner Ag Hedge.
Can the numbers USDA put out when it comes to prospective plantings really happen? Clinton Griffiths takes a closer look at the numbers and the realities in this analysis.
Matt Bennett with agmarket.net, our guest via our Kansas City studios. And Matt, as we look at USDA's latest prospective plantings report, they're calling for 92.8 million acres of corn, 84.6 million acres of soybeans. Is it possible to get there given the weather issues we have?
In my opinion, as far as the corn acreage number goes, no, I don't think it's possible to get to 92.8. When you look at combined corn and bean acres, we're down around 3 million acres. So a lot of people are scratching their heads saying, where'd all the acres go? But we got to keep in mind, preventative plant acres have been significantly lower than what we saw for several years here in the last 2 or 3 years. And so are we going to see some of those acres go back to prevent plant, especially with the kind of weather we're seeing this year? I absolutely think so. And so I believe the USDA is feeling like they're going to go back to more of a normal prevent plant situation, first of all. Second of all, profit margins haven't exactly been fantastic on corn or soybeans the last 2 or 3 years. I know that the ERS number said we'd be up 10% on total farm income in 2019. I'm certainly not buying that at the present time. We're going to have to see some significant market improvements over the next few months if that's going to come to pass.
Yeah. Do you think there's a lot of room to start shifting these decisions, even though we're into April and May is around the corner?
Right, I mean, that's a great question. I would say this: we've got more swing acres on the table for 2019 than I remember ever in my career. And the reason is because of the nature of last fall. Last fall was certainly a challenge for producers. A lot of guys didn't get field work done. And so, yes, there's swing acres out there. They can go either way. At this stage of the game, though, I don't know that it's anybody's trying to buy any acres. I think they're trying to give them away. I mean, profitability certainly doesn't look like it's going to be a clear winner on either side of the coin. And so corn certainly looked better up to this point. I know after the report and a little bit of weakness in the market, guys are down in the dumps, but we definitely need to be paying close attention to our profitability scenarios, because you can still paint a picture for corn where you can lock in at least getting your expenses paid for and then participate in some sort of a market later on in the year. But we absolutely need to know what our break evens are moving forward and be fairly aggressive in our marketing when we get opportunities to do so.
Great advice. As always, when those opportunities present themselves, take advantage. Thank you so much, Matt. We'll be back with more Ag Day here in just a minute.
To contact Matt Bennett at Ag Market, call 844-4AG-MARKET or visit their website at www.agmarket.net. Ag Day, brought to you by new Delaro fungicide for corn and soybeans. Achieve personal best yields.
Welcome back. Well, before we get to weather today, I need to introduce a meteorologist, Kimberly Newman, who is new and another addition to our AgDay weather team. So Kimberly, welcome to the team. We're happy to have you here, and let's tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Oh, Betsy, thank you so much. I felt such a warm welcome. I came here from working in Toledo, Ohio for nearly a decade as a meteorologist, so loving living in the Great Lakes area and forecasting for the entire nation here for AgDay.
All right, well, we look forward to having you on some future episodes. So let's get right into weather. What are you looking at today?
Okay, so we're going to start things off here with your root zone forecast. What this shows us is how much moisture is really in the soil right now. You can see where a lot of that moisture has still kind of lingered from all of that flooding in the month of March. Still something we're deeply focused on, plus very dry conditions down near Big Bend National Park. Across the nation, you'll see a low pressure system off the coast is going to continue to lift up the eastern seaboard, eventually turning from rain to snow. Meanwhile, nice high pressure system down in the southeast where we've got dry, comfortable, and mainly calm conditions. Another high developing coming across the Canadian border as this low pressure system in particular causes a little bit of turbulence right through the Plains states. Heading into your Thursday morning, we've got showers right along that boundary layer there. That'll move into the Great Lakes region on Thursday and continue to push forward with heavy rain showers for the Mississippi Valley Thursday evening. This is how much rain we've seen so far. Notice where that low pressure system is now, and that will continue to bring rain up the eastern seaboard. Meanwhile, where that low pressure system really fires off, we see the isolated chance of some thunderstorm activity with the heaviest rain falling into Alabama and Mississippi. Now, as we look at snow, obviously this map is going to have a little less activity, but you'll see some of that snow developing for parts of Maine and additional snowfall possible into the Rockies. Some snow showers will be through North Dakota, but very little accumulation there, less than a half an inch likely. As we move forward through this afternoon, you'll see temperatures in the 60s and 70s, but that's all mainly south. And with a dropping cold front, you can see some chillier weather coming in for the parts of the northern northeast here. Now, as we move through the day on Thursday, we'll have afternoon highs topping out once again in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. As we move forward here, you'll see that trough continues to push off, creating more of a zonal flow pattern that is in place for most of this weekend, with another trough deepening and developing for the beginning of next week. That's a look at your forecast across the country. Let's take a look at some of the local cities. Farmington, New Mexico, scattered rain with possible thunderstorms, a high of 61. Swanton, Ohio, sunny and dry with gusty winds, a high of 58. And Brattleboro, Vermont, early rain and snow mixed with a high of 54.
More ag industry leaders are voicing their concerns about a threat by the president to shut the border with Mexico, and a new take on a familiar favorite at Burger King.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Ag industry leaders are continuing to talk about this: President Trump's threat to close the U.S.-Mexico border if Mexico doesn't halt all illegal immigration. The U.S. Dairy Council now weighing in, warning closing the border would add to the industry's economic slump. Mexico is the largest export market for U.S. dairy. It imported nearly $1.4 billion worth of dairy products last year. Analysts say there would be major potential impacts if the border closes.
If he were to close the border, that is heady stuff because of a lot of trade. For agriculture, the U.S. shipped about $19 billion worth of agricultural products to Mexico in 2018.
The U.S. Chamber of Commerce says even threatening to close the border to legitimate commerce and travel creates a degree of economic uncertainty. Burger King appears to be getting into plant-based meat sales. It announced the Impossible Whopper. It is a meat-free burger that is available at 59 Burger King locations in the St. Louis area. The patty is made entirely from plants. It is topped with tomatoes, lettuce, mayo, ketchup, pickles, and onions. The company saying it's part of an initial test that could lead to a national rollout. Farmers often have to chase after their cows, but this takes the chase to a whole new level next.
In the Country is powered by Kawasaki. Let the good times roll.
Farmers know cows can sometimes get themselves in some strange predicaments, even in picturesque places. Take, for example, this cow. It actually had to be airlifted to safety after it got trapped on some rocks. The cow quickly found itself surrounded by cliffs on the coast of Sardinia. Rescuers put a harness around the cow and covered its head in an attempt to reduce distress. Then it was hoisted up safely by a helicopter. It was then safely put back on solid ground, apparently okay after its exciting day. Well, that's all the time we have this morning. We're glad you tuned in. For all of us here at AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Have a great day.